In my mind, the national debt is right up there with ISIS and AIDS and everything else. And by the time Obama leaves, it's going to be close to 19 trillion, if not over 19 trillion.
It'll be over.
If we don't tackle that problem, all of these other problems will be not taken care of.
Yes, sir. So let me, I'll go, the federal budget, 30% of our federal budget is what's called discretionary spending, which is we can decide how much to spend money on, okay? And you can't balance your budget by only cutting from 30% of it. Some of that is the military, and the fact is, if we aren't safe, none of these other things will matter. People say, cut foreign aid. Foreign aid is less than 1% of our budget. And by the way, cutting foreign aid would come with its own consequences. There has to be accountability in foreign aid. We're not going to waste money. But I can tell you foreign aid's made a difference in the world. You want to see it? Go to South Korea. South Korea used to be a recipient of foreign aid. Today they're a donor. Go to Colombia. It was a failed state. Now they're our biggest ally in Latin America. Heck, go to Japan. America rebuilt Japan after we had to destroy it in the Second World War. Today they're our strongest ally in the Asia-Pacific region. And it's less than 1% of our budget. 70% of our budget is what's called mandatory spending, which means we don't get to choose how much to spend on it. The law says that if people are eligible, this is how much they get, and we have to pay for it, okay? That's where the debt problem is. And it becomes acute long-term. Because what is happening is Social Security and Medicare were designed at a time when there were 16 people working for every person that was retired. So you had 16 people paying in, but one retiree taking out. Now it's down to 3 to 1. When the baby boomers retire, it may go down as far as 2 to 1. And that's why I said what I said. We've got to save Social Security and Medicare. You won't bring your debt under control if you don't deal with it. Now, if we wait 10 years to do it, it's going to be a mess. It's going to be very disruptive. But if we deal with it now, we still have time to do it in a way that doesn't disrupt the people that are on it now. My mom's 85 years old. I cannot go to her now and say, we're going to cut your Social Security check in half, go get a job. She can't. And we can't, plus people paid into this. You worked for 40 years, you paid, and they told you when you're done that you're going to get your money because you've earned it. We don't have to change it for them. But it's going to look different for me, not to mention the younger people that are here today. It's going to. And these politicians that tell you it doesn't have to, all we got to do is raise taxes, they're not telling you the truth. You couldn't raise taxes high enough to balance this out. The program's going to have to work differently the way it works. Okay, right now I'm supposed to retire at 67. I'll have to retire at 68. It would make me one of the youngest people in the Senate if I was still there at 68. So if I've made a lot of money, if I am truly a millionaire, my Social Security check is not going to be as big as someone who made less money. That's not an unreasonable thing to ask. And by the way, my Medicare could be the option of using my Medicare money to buy a private plan that I like better. That's not dramatic. We have that now. It's called Medicare Advantage, and it gets better results than Medicare fee-for-service. These are the changes that if we make them now, it brings our debt under control, but you have to combine that with economic growth. I don't mean to get too much into the weeds here, but this is an important question. What is our debt relevant as? It is relevant as a percentage of the size of our economy, okay? If we had a $4 trillion debt, you wouldn't have even asked that question because we have an $18 trillion economy. If Italy had a $4 trillion or $5 trillion debt, they'd be freaking out because they have a $2 trillion economy. So you need your debt to be a respectable and reasonable percentage of the overall size of your economy. And so the goal is to hold the line on growth and spending, reform those programs so the debt doesn't keep growing, but grow your economy. So your economy gets bigger, your debt stays the same or gets smaller, and suddenly you have a manageable debt level again, as opposed to what we have now. We have to do both. You can't just do one and not the other. We can't tax our way out of this. We can't cut our way out of this by itself. We have to grow the economy on a sustained rate, and we have to bring our spending under control long term. And on growing the economy, we have a chance to grow our economy unbelievably. You know why? Because there are now hundreds of millions of people in the world who buy things. There are people that were starving 20 years ago. Now they buy stuff. And they buy stuff from us. So this economy has extraordinary potential. But we have to make sure that we are the place where that's happening. And right now, increasingly, we're not. Because our taxes are more expensive on business than anywhere else in the world. Our regulations, every day, every week, they're adding billions of dollars of regulations. And those regulations don't hurt big business. They do not. Citibank spends $1 billion a year complying with regulations on banks. And they don't even notice it. They have an army of people. You know who can't do that? The regional bank. The regional banks over here can't spend all that money on compliance, so they stop loaning money. And you know who regional banks loan money to? Small business. Big business loves big government.